Hi and welcome to this presentation on maintenance work management KPI dashboards using Power BI. This presentation is going to cover how I chose the KPIs for a maintenance work management dashboard, how I chose the visualizations, so the charts and graphs and tables, etc., and how I chose the interactive features. So I'll go into the drill throughs and the help menus and the pop-ups and tooltips, etc., etc. So hopefully you're going to find it useful. Hopefully it'll be a good use of your time. So let's crack on. So first of all, a little bit about me. Jason Davidson. I work as a reliability engineer and I've been working in oil and gas for about 20 years now. I've held a few roles throughout that time, mainly in maintenance and work management. So I've been implementing CMMS systems, implementing work management systems, work management processes. And the last 3 or 4 years I've been working as a reliability engineer. So that's been really interesting, and all of that focused on maintenance but reliability, looking at the kind of bigger picture. I've been using Power BI for the last 3 years, and I am an avid enthusiast and have really absorbed myself in the whole Power BI tool, and I've spent a lot of time learning how to use Power BI, learning how to use DAX, learning the features, learning how to build dashboards, and hopefully I can pass some of that knowledge across to you in this session. I've got a website here, effectivedashboards.com, and a YouTube channel. So if you want to hop across the YouTube channel, you can subscribe, look at some of the videos, and it'd be great to hear some comments. Okay, so this session, what we're going to cover, what's the objectives? Well, 3 key objectives for me. The first one is I want to talk about requirements and a kind of process that I follow for gathering the requirements and how that fits into the bigger picture for building a dashboard. The next one is the KPIs. So which KPIs I chose and why. And we can discuss those, and they're all work management KPIs, and I've got a little bit of a rationale behind each one as to why I chose it and why I think it's relevant for the dashboard. And then we'll go and look at the Power BI dashboard itself. So we're going to go and I'm going to talk you through the visualizations I selected and why, the layout of the screen and why, and some of the interactive features, the pop-ups, the drill throughs, etc., etc. So we're going to go and spend a bit of time talking you through the Power BI dashboard that I've created. Okay, so the first thing, a little bit about Power BI. If you've never used it before and this is new to you, then this is interesting. If no, you can might be a refresh. So there's 3 key things for me that Power BI offer, and the first one is data acquisition. So it allows you to go and grab data from a variety of different data sources, lots and lots of data sources. The key ones, databases, any database practically that you want, as long as you've got access to it. Excel, CSV files, probably the easiest to pull information in from, but the least probably welcome if you've been in a situation where you've had lots of Excel spreadsheets, and keeping them, managing them and keeping them up to date and making sure there's no errors is a bit of a pain. But nonetheless, you can use Excel. And even PowerPoint, even PDFs. You can use PDFs, you can use websites, so there's lots of options for data acquisition. The second one is data transformation. So Power BI comes with a tool that allows you to take data from a source and transform it. So that means deleting rows, deleting columns, changing values. You can change the data types, you can do all sorts of stuff with the data. And for me, that's brilliant because I've never been in a situation where I've had a clean set of data to work with, particularly if it's coming from a CMMS, which most maintenance related data tends to come from Maximo, SAP, or one of these sort of tools. And then you've obviously got the one that everybody kind of knows, and that's the creation of the dashboards, the visualizations. So you can create dashboards and you can share those dashboards. You could probably split this into 2, the visualization creation and also the Power BI service, which is the online version of, or the online offering for Power BI that allows you to share dashboards within your organization and even externally, if people have got the access rights. So that's why I like Power BI, or what it is. And this is a reason why I think it's a great tool and why I use it every day, both to create dashboards and also to interpret KPIs in the dashboards that I've created. So I use it as an operational tool as well as develop new dashboards. So first of all, it's easy to use. You can really get a dashboard up and running. I've created a video. I can put a link at the back of this course, and it talks you through creating a dashboard, a backlog analysis dashboard if you're watching this from a maintenance point of view. And I talk you through creating one of them in just under an hour and a half. So that's from it's from data straight through to having a fully functional dashboard published to the Power BI service. So it is easy to learn the basics, and you can quickly start building dashboards. It's hard, and there's levels of complexity, and it will take you a while, particularly once you start getting into the DAX programming language. But certainly using the tool itself is quite easy to learn. It's feature rich, so there's lots of options. Like I mentioned, data transformation, there's lots of different connection sources, there's plenty of options to visualize your data, and there's a marketplace, so external companies can create visualizations and charts and whatever. So there's lots of options for visualizing your data and selecting the formatting of the dashboards. It's really flexible. And then the other reason is growth. So this really, in this sort of data analytics type space, Power BI is really the sort of market leader, and its growth has been exponential over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. It's updated monthly, so there is really an active team. Microsoft are investing money in this tool. Every month there's new releases, and there's a mechanism for voting for the features as well. So it's not just what the Power BI team thinks is important. They do look at this active support community, and you can vote for features, and the more votes it gets, the more chance it is of it being implemented. Excuse me. So that's where I like it. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 5 steps to building an effective dashboard. So this is the steps I cover. Each time I build a dashboard, I think about these steps here. Define the requirements, model the data, so where you're going to pull the data from and what's the relationships between the different databases if you're using multiple databases, and also within the one database that you've got. Then it's a build, so we're going to look at these 2 stages today in a bit more detail. So building the dashboard within Power BI, but you can see it's the 3rd stage of the process. So the Power BI tool doesn't sit in a vacuum, it sits, and you only create dashboards because somebody wants one to help them interpret some data and make some decisions. So the build is when we go and actually build that dashboard in Power BI. Implement is where we then go and make sure that people are using it. It's a bit of change management there to make sure that people understand where it is, what it does, the features, how to use it, where it fits into the business processes, what meetings you use it in, or where within your day, your week, or your month do you go and consult the data. So that's important too. And then evolve. So we need to understand that a dashboard, once it's created and people start to use it, they'll come up with ideas, and these ideas can be fed back into the actual database, the dashboard. So it's important that you look at these ideas, incorporate them into the dashboard, and it will evolve over time. There's no doubt, even if the business processes change. Okay, so 6 questions to ask when defining your requirements. Now, if you ask these 6 questions and get some decent results from them, decent answers, you're going to be well on your way to getting a dashboard that is going to meet the requirements of the end user or users. So the first thing is, what is the goal of the dashboard? It's key that you understand that. A dashboard can't be all things to all people. I've tried and done that before, and it just ends up being a mess. So you might need to create 3 or 4 different dashboards, each with a specific goal. But you need to understand and define what is the goal of the dashboard. Second, what decisions is the dashboard supporting? So what do you want somebody to do once they look at the information that's on this dashboard? It could be one decision. It could be we go for a project, or we don't go for a project, or we go and we go and spend some money, or we don't spend some money. But what are the decisions or the decision that you want the dashboard to support? What information is required? So it's an obvious one, but what do you need to be able to meet the goal and support these decisions? So typically it'll be some sort of data from a database somewhere, but you might need additional data as well from multiple sources. Question 4. What is the priority and grouping of the information? So once you've understood what information you need, it's quite a useful exercise to classify that information and say, right, okay, what is the most important information and what's second, what's third, or whatever. Just depends how much information and how many KPIs and measures you're going to put on your dashboard. But it's important to understand where they sit in terms of relative priority amongst themselves, because that will then feed into where it is placed on the screen. Number 5 is, who is the dashboard targeted at? It's important that we know who the target audience is. And again, for different people, you might need a different design. So if you're a manager, you might just want a few figures. Give me the key figures that I need. I'm not interested in maybe some trends. I just want what is the figure just now, or what has been the average in the last month, or whatever. But who's the dashboard targeted at will drive what information you show in the dashboard and the level of aggregation and trending, etc. in detail. And number 6, how will people view and interact with the dashboard? So if it's going to be displayed on a big screen, then there's no point in putting a drill through onto the dashboard. However, if somebody's going to access it on their desktop, then they probably want to drill into the detail behind some of the figures. If somebody wants to access it on a phone, then you want to keep the visualizations bold and big and stick to numbers. If somebody's accessing it on their computer, then you might be able to, just on a one-on-one, you might be able to put some smaller visualizations and some trends and some graphs. So how people interact and the size of the screens is important too. Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer each one of those questions for this particular dashboard that I've created, and I'm going to show you in a second. So the first thing is, what is the goal of the dashboard? So the goal of our dashboard, which we've created, is to provide an overview of the performance of the work management process, the maintenance work management process, which is basically work orders. How are work orders flowing through the system? How are we executing these work orders? That type of thing. So it's an overview of our work management process, our maintenance work management process. What decisions are the dashboard supporting? Well, the key decision here is really going to be which work orders do we need to focus our efforts on moving through the process. So what are the blockers in the process, and which work orders do we need to focus on either in moving through the process? And there's going to be probably 6 different decisions they're going to support. One is the risk assessment, and which work orders do we go and risk assess. The second is which work orders do we go and schedule. So what are the most important work orders to go and schedule in the next weekly schedule. This third one, and how are we actually achieving that schedule? So are we actually, once we schedule work orders, are we actually getting after these work orders and achieving the work that we put in the schedule? Which work needs approved? Have we got any work that's sitting that needs to be approved because it's at this point in time it is an unknown risk until its risk has been approved and validated by a team of people that are competent? Which work do we need to start planning? And I guess completing here is which work we need to schedule, and then finally reviewing. So once we've done the work, we need to review the work to make sure that the information that's in the work order and also the work that's actually done in the plant is correct, and any following activities are carried out. So that is in essence the kind of decisions we're going to support here: risk, scheduling, approval, planning, completing and reviewing. So here are the KPIs that I have selected as being the most relevant to the work management process. Now the key thing here is that we are looking at KPIs that we can look at in the short term that we can go and influence. So I've been very specific about KPIs, and if this target is not as it should be, or is below what it should be, then I wanted somebody to be able to take an action somewhere relatively quickly to go and actually make that, move that back on target. So that's why we've got no sort of strategic KPIs in here. So tool time or work order cost, these type of things are not on here because somebody can't go and influence that in the short-term time frame that this dashboard is actually designed for. So let's go through this. We've got a safety critical backlog, so this is really risk. How much work orders have we got that's unassessed and is in our backlog? If it's overdue against our safety critical systems, these could impact the people that work in our plants, and we want the target to be 0. We don't want any work that's unrisk assessed. We don't want any surprises, particularly if we've got work that's in our backlog. The second is our monthly preventive maintenance compliance. And that should be 85%. We want that to be something that we make sure we keep on top of. It's the foundation for our maintenance strategy. It's making sure we've got our PMs in place and we are executing that PMs. Weekly schedule compliance. How much of are we actually executing the schedule that we put together? And then we've got some workflow measures here. So is the work flowing through the system? So we've got work orders waiting approval, work orders waiting for preparation, work orders scheduled but not ready. So these are work orders that have got a scheduled start date in the next 14 days, but the status doesn't reflect that. The status is something else. It's waiting for preparation or waiting for materials, because that's going to be a risk to us in terms of this work might not be ready to go into our weekly schedule. And then we've got work orders waiting for final history review. So there could be other ones, but these are the ones I've selected, driven by availability of data, and each one of these, in my opinion, is something that if it's not on target, you can take steps to go and actually put it back on target. Okay. So next we have done, the next one is what is the priority and grouping of the information. So this table is has got a list of the KPIs, and I've put a relative ranking beside each one. Safety criticals first, work order approval, work orders waiting approval second, because there could be some safety critical breakdown or corrective work that hasn't been approved and properly risk assessed or risk ranked. Then we've got PM compliance, then we've got schedule compliance, and then we've got the work orders waiting planning, scheduled but not ready, and work order history. So that's the kind of the relative ranking. I've kind of grouped them. Now that's important because we want to make sure that if the data's got a theme, we actually place it next to each other. So we don't want sort of like a one work efficiency measure sitting at the top corner and then the other one at the bottom corner up to the top right hand side or whatever. We want these to be grouped together. Now that does mean that even though this one is the second most important KPI, it's probably better to group it together with these other ones. So that's the type of thing that the thought process that's going through my mind when I'm building these dashboards. So this is risk, this one's future reliability, this one's all about efficiency and executing the work, and these are all about work flowing through the system, which is probably efficiency as well, but I've just subgrouped it into workflow. So that's our groupings. Who's the dashboard aimed at? So this dashboard is aimed at these people here. Area managers, operations managers, maintenance manager, operations sort of team leaders offshore, supervisors, schedulers, and work planners. So they are all going to be interested in this dashboard. So it is actually quite a wide range of people who's going to be looking at this. And how will people view the dashboard? So there's going to probably be three distinct methods of viewing this dashboard. The first one is going to be on a large screen displayed in an office so that you can see how the performance is on a day-to-day basis. Then we've got a large screen in an office that would also be used during meetings. So this one here is just going to be a display. This one is going to be a display but with an option to go and use it during meetings, so interact with it. And then the other one here is a desktop computer. So somebody accessing it through the desktop. I've not said, it's not designed for the phone, it's not designed for the tablet, it's going to be designed for these applications here, or these types of screens here. And in terms of the aspect ratio, it's going to be 16:9. So most people have got these kind of widescreen monitors these days, and that'll be the vast majority of people that are using it. Okay, so let's go on and talk about building the dashboard in Power BI. So the build stage. So that was a define stage. This is now the build stage. So the first thing I want to talk about is using those groupings that we talked about earlier on and the relative ranking. I like to just pull together a little bit of a one-page kind of mock-up of how I think the dashboard is going to look. And so this is what I've come up with. So at the top corner, this is the safety. So I would like to get the total number of safety critical hours, because that's important to us. That's how much work orders, how much hours is in our backlog. And then this particular dashboard is going to be showing information across 3 different sites. So I'd like to get that information, the total for all sites, and then that information broken down by each site. And I want to see it also broken down by the hours and the number of work orders, because they're both important. Hours is the liquidation, how much effort's going to be involved in liquidating the work. So can we actually liquidate that work in a timely fashion with the resources we've got at our site? And then the work orders is going to be the number of open risks that we've got. Each work order is going to be a defect or an overdue PM. So we want to know how many of those we've got. So you could have a situation where you've got 10 work orders for an hour each. You've got 10 risks. Or you could have just one work order for 10 hours, which means you've got one risk, and it's going to take you a little bit longer to go and mitigate that risk by actually getting after the work and getting it executed. So that's why we like to see both sides of both the count and the hours. PM compliance. So in PM compliance, month to date, how are we meeting our compliance figure? And that will change as we go through the month. This report will be updated daily with each of these figures. It's worth mentioning. Schedule compliance, that will be another daily update, and that will build up towards the end of the scheduling week. And we can see the work that we've got scheduled and how much of that we've completed and how much break-in work we've got. Total work orders awaiting approval, so this will be another figure on its own. Across all our 3 sites, how much work have we got that has been created but hasn't been approved yet during our work order review meeting. And then how is work flowing through the work order process? So the key stages of the work order process, we'll get the number of work orders at each of those for each of the sites. So that's the layout there. The reason I put the stuff at the top here is we tend to read from left to right, and well, certainly in sort of like a Western culture. So you put the most important information there. Our eyes are typically drawn to, if all else being equal, our eyes are kind of drawn to that top left-hand corner there. And then we'll sort of scan across in a kind of zigzaggy sort of motion there. And grouped it together, so these are grouped by the type of data, so that's backlog data there, PM compliance, schedule compliance. So this is looking at the sort of executional work and our compliance to our strategies and our weekly schedule. And then this section at the bottom is looking at how work is actually flowing through the system. So it kind of makes sense to group them how I've done it. I'm quite happy with that grouping there. And yeah, I think we can now move on and start looking at this dashboard in Power BI. Okay, so we're now in the dashboard in Power BI. So let me talk you through what I've done here. So we talked about the safety critical backlog. So at the top here, we've got the total number of hours for all 3 of our sites, Alpha, Bravo and Charlie, in this example here. And I've used this donut chart here to kind of frame this, and I think it works quite well. It only really works when you've got probably like 2, 3, max 4 different categories here, and I certainly would not advocate using a pie chart for anything other than just maybe a couple of categories max. But this donut chart works pretty well. Just gives you a feel for what the total number is, and you can see it's in red. I've used conditional formatting to make sure that that stands out. The kind of colours are quite grey sort of colours, and the reason I've done that is because I want the colours that are red to really stand out. And that's one of the elements that that's important, is that the person that looks at this can quickly, and I would actually probably go and use even a lighter colour for some of these actually, but we want the person that's looking at this to quickly see, right, we've got an issue here, we've got issues here, I'm fine, got a couple of issues here, so you can see straight away where your problems are. And I've got quite a lot of different problems here, but if you only had 2 or 3 of these that were red, then you would quite clearly see that they would be standing out. So just a little bit on colour there, and everything else is fairly bland. So donut chart frames the number of hours. The next thing we've done, moving along here, is we've used these lines here to kind of give us a little bit of a separation, and for each of these we've got the numbers in black. Again, using black sparingly, a bit like red, it sort of stands out, and that's the numbers there. I did try highlighting these red as well, but it was just a bit too much, so what I've done is I've highlighted the actual the description above each one of these. So I've given it a symbol, and I've given it a conditional format and colour red. And the other feature there is it's actually telling us why it's red. So look, the hours are greater than 20, and that's why it's red. We've got a target there of 20. The count is greater than 2, and that's why it's red. The hours are less than 40, so we can see at a glance how close we are to the target. And either way, how close we are to, if we've exceeded the target, in this example here, or this example here, this one here we've busted, spectacularly busted. And then we can see here that we're on target, and we're actually well within our target. Now, the target is 0, but I've just put some numbers in here so we can see this conditional formatting in action. So we've got the numbers for each of the sites, Bravo, Charlie and Alpha, backlog hours and count, and then underneath I put a wee trend here. So that lets us see the sort of full story. What's the number? How close is it to our target? And are we getting better or worse? That's the kind of key thing here. And we can see here we've been getting progressively better with this, and this one here as well. This one's getting progressively worse in terms of the count, and we've had a big step up here just on that. And if we hover above here, you can see the 24th to the 5th, so you can see that changing with that tooltip. So there's something happened there. If you go from the 24th to the 25th, you can see there was only one work order, so that's probably just one work order there. And I'll show you how we can drill in and find that out later on. And then this has gone down, so we're in a good place here. We've had a steady low number of hours, and the number of work orders has been progressively getting lowered as well. So that tells a story about our safety critical backlog. Next, we've got PM compliance. So I've chosen, where possible, if you've got categories that are text, it is sometimes better to have these side-facing bars, or horizontal bars, and that's because it's easier to read this. You know, and we can get more information in. So if we were to use these bars here, you just have little stubby bars, a little bit like this actually. It's not, that's not ideal, but because we used 3 bars for each one of these, it would be impractical to use that. Another feature here that I tried was to colour code these. Now it didn't really work particularly well because you get a big block of colour if it's in red, and that overwhelms the other colours, and instinctively we think a lot of red, big issue, and I didn't want that to happen because PM compliance being in red is a big issue, but it's no bigger an issue than some of these other ones. So that is why I've added these little symbols at the end here, and these on the schedule attainment as well. I've added those in, and that just lets us see if we're on target or off target. And these have got a bit like these ones at the top here. They've got these hover tooltips that give you a little bit more information. So this one's got the same. It's telling us that that's good. It's above the progress target of 90%, of 85%, or 80%, sorry. this one's below 80% and that one's below 80%. And that target value there is dynamic and it changes throughout the month to the point where at the end of the month, in fact this is the end of the month, that should be 85%. I think I probably reduced it to 80 just so we could get one of them being non-red. But that changes dynamically as the month, for each week of the month, that target will get progressively higher. And that's because we want it to be relevant to the day of the month that the PM compliance is measured against. So in the first of the month, it's something like, we'd expect there to be some PMs completed at the first of the month, so I think I've set it to be something like 20%. After the first week, we're looking at it to be 40%, then 60, then whatever it is, 80, then 85. So you can make a dynamic target that changes based on the day of the month. And I've used that. Again, if you hover above here, you get the same sort of pop-up, warning below target. So there's a little bit of interaction there. Schedule attainment, we've chosen schedule attainment. The key thing here is, well, a couple of things. The first is an overview of the schedule attainment, the fill-in and the break-in work for all of the sites. So this 13% is across all sites. So what we've done here is take all the work that's scheduled for all of the sites and all the work that's currently completed for all of the sites as of this Sunday for this week. So this will reset itself at the start of every week. And the Sunday is the third day of the week. The schedule starts, it's the second day of the week actually. The schedule starts on a Saturday and finishes on the following Friday. Another couple of things that are worth noting here is that I've hard coded or set the axis here to be between 0 and 100 because I want it to be, I don't want it to auto scale. I want to see this progressing and get a feel for how far through the schedule we are. If this auto scaled, then that would be probably something like, that total there would be something like 20%, and this would be up here, and it's a little bit confusing because you would need to look at it first and then realise it's 20% or whatever it auto scaled to. And I've done the same with this as well. It's probably good as a rule of thumb is when you're looking at percentages on a graph is to make sure that it goes from 0 to 100. What else have we got? So that's our schedule attainment. For each of the sites, we've got the schedule attainment, we've got the fill-in, and we've got the break-in work. So you can see here, that is our fill-in work here. This is our schedule attainment, and it's telling us the percentage we've achieved. So there's not any break-in work here. That's 0% so far in the second day, which is probably pretty good. And again, we've got these little symbols here to say if we're above or below the target for this particular point in the week. And I think each day it progresses by 12% the target, or 15% or something in that order. So this target here is always compared against a target that's for that point in the week. There's no point in putting this and measuring this against the target at the end of the week, because by the end of the week it will be on to next week. So we want to see this target progressing. So what have I done here? Schedule attainment above progress target of 10%. Yeah, so for the second day I've kind of said we're looking for a target of 10%. So that's why this 8% and 6% is not on target. The third day it would be maybe 15 or 20%. I can't remember exactly how I've set it up. But that's one of the features that I've done with this dashboard is I've managed all of the KPIs and their targets in a central location. So if I change it in one place, it's going to cascade through into all of these. And I will put some resources again at the end to explain how, or you can go and check these resources out and I talk through how I've done this conditional format and then set these central KPI management system. I've set that up. At the bottom, we've got the work orders awaiting approval for greater than 7 days. And again, I've used the same sort of layout as I've done with the backlog, safety critical backlog hours. Slightly smaller because I just want that subtle distinction between the two. And then for each one of these, we have got the we've got the information related to the number of work. This is split down I've split the work orders waiting approval into two status codes. Those work orders that are waiting to be reviewed initially, and there's a status code in the CMMS that can flag the work order as being a question against the work order. It needs more information. But they're both waiting approval sub-statuses of this waiting approval status. And then waiting for planning, waiting for scheduling, or scheduled, not ready, and then waiting for history review. And then we've got the number for each of the sites, and that's been color-coded as well. So a table here is a good option. We've got multiple KPIs and we've got multiple sites, and I think there's not too many, so you can quite easily kind of see the figures here, and they're color coded. Each one of these has got a different target, and that is the layout of the dashboard. So let's look at some of the features we've got. So the first one I've discussed is these pop-ups that just give you a bit of additional information. I would actually probably, now I'm thinking about it, put a value in here of the delta. So if the target's 20 and we're sitting at 56, I'd like to see the 36 mentioned in there, so we don't need to calculate that ourselves. That could be a bit for the future. So that's the evolution process. Even as I'm going through this dashboard, I'm thinking about how we could evolve it. Drill throughs. So each one of these has got a drill through. So you right click on here, and then you've got a drill through, and you would choose the report you want to drill through to, which is not the best functionality in Power BI. I'm sure they're going to sort this out, but you need to, if you've activated a drill through, so I've activated a number of drill throughs here, and all of these are based on a drill through from a visualization that's got the site in it. So that's why it's been displayed here, and it'll be displayed here and here. So I'm going to have to go and select PM compliance, and then I can go, and because I had alpha highlighted, it's only drilled through, and it's now showing me a focus on the alpha PM compliance, and broken down by each of the different types of work orders. So that's the drill throughs. You can drill through for schedule attainment as well. Let's just drill into here, and we've got schedule summary, and that's going to tell us how far through our schedule we are, the different disciplines, and I also believe you can drill through here even further to schedule details, and that's got our 7 non-attained work orders. So we can actually go and check what work orders have we got that are not attained. And then drill right back up again. The next one we've got is the number of work orders. So this is a fairly straightforward one. We'd want to see, right, we've got 9 work orders that are waiting for a review for more than 7 days. So each one of these, what I've done, I'd rather have a target of 0 and change the metric. So I've changed this metric to be number of work orders waiting for more information, or waiting for history review, or waiting for planning for greater than 7 days. And that gives us 7 days to get that work done and progressed through this status. And that's why the target's 0. And it's easier than setting a target, because it's a little bit difficult to say, well, what would be the target for something that's been there for 7 days? So I've set the target at 0 and said, right, okay, but it has to be 0 after, nothing can be there for more than 7 days. And that's any work order that's been created 7 days ago or more, basically, and is still waiting for approval. And then you can go in here and drill through and look at the work orders that are waiting risk review. It is there. And there's our 9 work orders there. It is possible actually to set this up so you can hyperlink through into your CMMS. On the YouTube channel, I've explained how you can get this to hyperlink through, set this up to hyperlink through to a Maximo system if you're interested in that. And then you use these buttons to navigate back again. So this is the Power BI service. I forgot to mention that. So this is published to our website. It allows you to share it with the people in your organisation, and also externally if they've got authorization. So that's the drill throughs, the tooltips. The other tooltips I've used are tooltips that are activated for each of the different visualizations. So you can see here that little question mark just above my cursor there. And we've got one here as well. So if we hover above this, what I've done is I've activated a tooltip that shows the KPI definition. So that's a question that I often get asked. How is that KPI calculated? So what I've done is I've actually created a page, allocated it as a tooltip, and then turned on this this option here to allow us to show this as a tooltip. Safety critical backlog, and that is what it is. And here's the work orders waiting approval. Now the targets are here. It's important that we show the targets. I've kind of used a couple of different options. This one's got the targets in the actual as part of the description. This one here has got the targets when you hover over these. You can see that's a target there. Now, and I was trying to figure out a kind of a method to put a target here, because each one of these will have a different target, and potentially each site will have a different target as well. So what I've done is I've just used this visualization tooltip here, and we can see here's the target value here for work orders waiting approval total. So the total is 29, and well, it should be 12, that's why it's red. The work orders waiting approval for more than 7 days, waiting risk review, so that is like for the site, it should be 7. Waiting risk review was 1. So that's why we've got this one here is fine, and this one here is in the red. So that's what I've put the targets for those. The next thing I've done is I've added in a couple of buttons up here. So if I click on that one, that is going to take us to a page that shows all of the definitions and a little bit of support. So you can put your email address here. You could also put in an email address for feeding back any suggestions. That's quite useful. If somebody wants to suggest, and this is helping with the evolution of the dashboard, you can put that email address in there. But apart from that, we've got all of the KPI definitions in one place here. And the other thing I've done is this help button here is an overlay. So that activates an overlay that gives you the opportunity to put some other some pointers in place that allows you to say what each one of these is. And then you just click on that to get rid of it again. Okay, so this button here is going to take us just to a backlog view. So that's going to be all of our backlog. So that's our safety critical backlog, but this is going to take us through to our work order backlog. Safety, environmental, production, routine, and other work. So this is just a excuse me, a copy of, or a dashboard that shows you all of the backlog for each of the sites. And then you can use that to go back again. Okay, so hopefully you've found this useful. Hopefully you can use it for some inspiration. You can look at what I've done and try and improve upon it. Any comments, I'll put a resources section at the back of the presentation in the video with some contact details. Any comments, any feedback, any suggestions would be much appreciated. And I think we are now pretty much at the end. So I've talked you through the definitions, the 6 questions you need to ask for the definitions. We've gone on to talk about the build process and the logical thinking behind grouping this information and selecting these KPIs. So just to cycle back, each of these KPIs are things that you could get after. So to get the work order backlog reduced, you just need to go and actually risk assess this work, or obviously go and complete the work. If the schedule attainment's behind, then we need to go and choose the work orders and select the work orders that are not attained and get them completed. The same with the PM compliance, we need to go and look at the work orders which have not been completed and get them into our schedule and get them done. Work orders waiting for approval, we just need to go and get them through an approval process. Work orders waiting planning, we just need to go and actually get them planned and get them prepared and scoped up. If a work order is not ready for scheduling, then we need to change the scheduled start date to make sure it's out with that 14-day window. And then if a work order is needs its history reviewed, then that is something we need to set some time against. So I guess there will always resource constraints, so it's easier said than done, but each one of these potentially you can go and actually influence. And that's what I wanted with this day by day, short term, short interval control of the work management process. So thanks again for listening to this presentation. I really hope you found something useful in it and something you can go and apply, and some ideas you can apply in your own organisation in terms of creating a work management KPI dashboard. If you are interested in learning how I created this dashboard, then I have built a course and I will take you step by step through the whole process, from designing the dashboard to actually creating the measures and the KPIs for schedule attainment, for the backlog, for the PM compliance, etc. And all of the drill through reports, it's all there, and that is available at that link, this link here. The second one is a free dashboard or a free course, and this takes you through building a work order backlog analysis dashboard. So just a one KPI, but it takes you through that whole process in less than 90 minutes. So this is really good if you want to just get a quick start and get a feel for, you've never maybe used Power BI, or you want to see how I've built a backlog analysis dashboard, then that is the one for you. And then if you're interested in conditional formatting, and it's something that's pretty close to my heart, because I think a dashboard without some sort of conditional formatting is fairly pointless. It needs some mechanism for drawing the user's attention to where the problems are. And this is a course on conditional formatting, so you can go and check that one out as well. Okay, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you again in the future.